Hello friends and family and welcome to my channel. My name is Magnus and this is Green Machine Sweden. Today I'm gonna take you a tour around my greenhouse in the middle of the winter and show you a little bit about overwintering non-hardy plants. My experience, the pros, the cons, the cost, and also in the end I will have a small update to share. Without further ado, let's dig into it. So what is non-hardy plants then? Well, when I talk to my fellow plant enthusiasts around Sweden, we all have a similar idea of what plants is hardy and what plants is not hardy. But really, depending where you are in the world, hardiness means different things. So I prefer to use the term less hardy plants because it's more universal. A plant that is non-hardy to me may be hardy to you. Anyway, the conditions I live in is western coastal Sweden, so it's a very mild area in Sweden. It's similar to the USDA zone 7. But a lot wetter, and that will make a huge difference when selecting plants to grow outdoors and selecting which ones needs to go into the overwintering setup. So basically you can divide plants into 3 different categories to understand their needs for overwintering. And that has to do with temperature. There are plants that are tolerant to frost but still not hardy enough to live in your condition. May it be too wet, may it be too long winter, or anything else for that matter. So if you have plants tolerant of frost but that doesn't survive in your conditions, in your climate, this is a setup that would work excellent. There are also subtropical plants, and those are plants that will need a winter. It's not good to put them indoors in a warm and dry environment. Most of them can handle a few degrees of frost, but prolonged freezing and they will die really. Those kinds of plants do very well in a overwintering setup similar to this, which keeps around 5 degrees all winter. But there are also another type of plants, the pure tropicals. They cannot handle frost, they like it a little bit warmer, and normally one would say that 10 degrees is a good place to be if you want to overwintering tropicals. However, most tropicals do really fine with coming indoors in living room conditions, so that's not what I am doing here. I stick with less hardy plants and subtropical plants in my overwintering setup. There is one thing you need to consider as well when building a overwintering setup like this. It's whether you want to grow plants that need it moist or wet in the winter, or you want to grow plants that need it dry and low humidity in winter. Those can just not be grown or be overwintered in the same conditions. So in my setup I focus mainly on plants that needs to have it fairly dry and low humidity during the winter. So when it comes to equipment for this kind of setup, obviously you would need some kind of heater. In my example for this 4.5 square meter area, I use 2 separate heating systems. It's 2 kilowatts each, just heat fans. They are run by an electronic thermostat, and they are on 2 separate fuses in my house. That detail is very, very important, because it does happen that you blow a fuse and you don't notice it, and you just lose all your plants. So when overwintering like this in a cold climate, always make sure that you have 2 separate heating systems on 2 separate fuses in your house. Also, when you're heating an outdoor area like this, it makes sense to isolate it a little bit. In my case, I'm using this transparent plastic. It's a double sheet, so there's a area in between with stagnant air, and that's really a good isolator. And also around the walls and the roof I use a bubble wrap with really thick bubbles. What is important when you choose your isolating material, it makes sense to block as little sun as possible, because sun is really a scarce resource in winter. If you want to isolate a little bit heavier, you may save on heating bills, but on the other hand you may need to add artificial light. So yeah, it's a balance, and you have to choose what's best for you and your goals and your setup. One thing that is also very, very important when growing plants in enclosed areas, that is air circulation. So I'm running this overwintering room with a very, very strong wind, very strong fan, and it's really also helping to take the humidity down and make the soil dry up between watering. So don't forget air circulation in an overwintering setup. So how much does it cost then? Cost is obviously always a consideration that one needs to take. This winter so far we have had 3 very bad cold spells, 5 to 10 degrees minus, and between that it has been mildish kind of weather. I do measure all electricity that I use in this greenhouse, and at the moment, after half the winter, I'm up about 200 kilowatt hours. I know that it will increase, of course, if weather gets really cold, and especially if it's heavy wind and cold, it can take quite some electricity. But I have a hard time to think that it should be more than 1000 kilowatt hours for a full winter season under my conditions. And comparing that really to the value of the plants that I keep in the greenhouse, that's really a fraction of a cost. It's not possible to discard the plants every year and buy new ones. So that 1000 kilowatt hours is very well invested money in my opinion. Anyway, let's look into a little bit of the plants I'm having in the overwintering setup and talk about what's the benefits for each of them. Let's dig into that as well. So just a quick look at the bonsai bench here in the unheated part of the greenhouse. So last winter I made a video specifically about overwintering bonsai, so I will not dig into that as much. However, I will leave a link up above if you are interested in specifically overwintering bonsai. Let's crack on. So I have this double door which is held by a piece of wood, so I can open it easily. And also in summer I just remove the doors and I use all of the greenhouse for my plants, so it's not a waste of area in summer. So let's get the huge epiphyllum out of the way. This is a good example of a plant that does really well during these conditions. It's quite an ugly plant, I would say, with wonderful flowers. And yeah, if you go back to my channel, you will see it flowering in spring. The thing is that if you don't keep it cold in winter, it will not flower, and you will just have this, yeah, quite an ugly plant. So just another look at some bonsai and some very new lithops, which is a South African succulent. Very special plants, but they do really good in this kind of setup. On this side, the driest part of the greenhouse, I keep all my cacti and succulent. And meanwhile, they can be kept indoors as house plants all year. The issue is really that they don't flower. If I overwinter like this, I get all sorts of flowers all winter, and that's really what I like about it. And cactus and succulent just bone dry, just waiting for spring. So very easy to take care of in a setup like this. We have a few winter active plants. This is a crassula coming into bloom. I think I have another one here. They really get into bloom during winter, which is quite cool. That's another crassula that is actively growing in winter and resting in summer. And a few other plants like this, winter growers. Winter growing plants is quite cool, quite different from what we are used to, at least up here in the cold north. So very exciting. However, it's very important that those plants get some water during the winter, which makes the care a little bit more intense than for the plants that are resting in the winter. One type of plant that is very well adapted to this kind of overwintering is geraniums. I'm not a very big fan of geranium in general, but yeah, I really like the scented ones. So this is a tray of different scented geraniums. And I do have a huge one stacked in under there, which is doing great in winter in this kind of setup. On the floor it's quite crowded, I would say. The plants here is mainly bulbous plants that I really just need to store the pots itself. And we have some Mediterranean plants, that's citrus in there, some eucalyptus, the olive of course, and yeah, we have a grape bonsai, both a Mediterranean type and a bonsai, quite cool. The subtropic kind of plants could be from other regions than from the Mediterranean. So here we have a few Australian plants. And back here we have some Asian orchids that really needs to have a cold dormancy to go into flower in the spring. I have been experimenting with a lot of different species of trees just to see what can be grown and what can not be grown. So yeah, it's a mix of everything that I grow from seed and from cuttings, and that eventually could become bonsai material for me. This one is actually a full tropical plant that is doing fairly good in winter in this kind of setup. There are not many of them, but this one do nice. Yeah, a lot of different species of trees in different stages. Also down here a little bit more mature trees. This one is very exciting to me. This is the Australian tea tree, and it seems like it's growing all year round. It grows well like a weed in the summer, but also here in the greenhouse at 5 degrees in winter you see it's actively growing. That is quite cool, isn't it? So yeah, that's a little bit about what I keep in my greenhouse. Some of them is there just to survive the winter. Some of them is there and actively growing during the winter. And some of them is there just to be prepared for the spring and get these wonderful flowers in spring and summer basically. Now I have one issue in this setup. As I mentioned, it has been very mild, and in my area mild means very humid, and since I really want to keep the humidity down, normally it's not an issue, but this year has been really bad, and I have lost a few plants to mold because of this. So I have come up with this solution and see if it works for me or not. This is a small dehumidifier for laundry rooms and small spaces. It is rated for down to 5 degrees Celsius. So let's see what we have here. The thing with dehumidifiers is they lose their efficiency in lower temperatures. So I really need to look into how well it performs and maybe increase the temperature if needed. Seems like a very small and neat little unit. Yeah, I will just set it up and show you later how it look like. So the unit has been started. According to the display it's 72% humidity. However, on this sensor I have here says 96. So yeah, I don't know, maybe the issue wasn't as bad as I thought. I have put it on 50%, so it will keep on dehumidifying here until it's 50%. And I put a hose into my watering can so I can collect the water. That water should be really good to use for the plants when needed. So yeah, now it's just a waiting game. I will get back to you when I have reached 50% humidity. See you later, cheers. So it's been a week now with the dehumidifier. Yeah, it feels a lot fresher in here, not so humid. And yeah, what is it? I think it's like 5 liters of water. And the measurements in there, it's really hard to measure humidity, so those cheap sensors are not always perfect. But it has dropped about 10% humidity, and yeah, I can feel it's a lot better in there. So this water I have from the dehumidifier is perfect for watering, so that's what I'm going to do now. So that's all I have for you today, folks. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care, stay safe, Bye!